We will now move into session 1 of our conference. This session, as you all know, is entitled Lebanon's Economic Crisis by Sector, the Knowledge Economy Loses Its Balance. I will invite now the panelists to please join us on the stage, and we'll introduce shortly our moderator to begin the session. Okay? Please. We will be joined by Dr. Bassa Akar virtually, and I will, as such, with everyone here, start by introducing our moderator, Dr. Sami Nader. Dr. Sami Nader is the director of the Institute of Political Science at St. Joseph University. He is an economist, Middle Eastern affairs analyst, and communication expert with extensive expertise in corporate strategy and risk management. He currently directs the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs, focusing on the economics and geopolitics of the Levant. Sami, good morning again to you and to our panelists, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Makram. Good morning, everyone. I'm really thrilled today because this is a very important topic. I know that the attention is somewhere else nowadays, but let me congratulate you, Makram, LCPS, and FNF for choosing this very important topic. In fact, rethinking our economic model is of prime importance for one simple reason, that the old economic model has collapsed. And coming up with a new economic model that boosts productivity and drive the whole economy into sustainable development is something that is key. And deep diving in these 4 economic sectors you have chosen is a very smart move. Without further ado, let me start by introducing, I will introduce the panelists one after the other. And ladies first, let me introduce Lina Maddah. Lina is a senior economic researcher at LCPS and adjunct professor at the Department of Economics at the Lebanese American University. Dr. Maddah holds a PhD in economics from University Rovira in Spain and was awarded the Marie Sklodowska-Curie Fellowship. Prior to LAU, Lina was visiting scholar at the Regional Economic Application Laboratory, REAL, at the University of Illinois at Urbana, USA, and a visiting researcher at the Center of Entrepreneurship. Her areas of work include urban and regional economics, spatial economic analysis, and cultural and creative industry. Lina, let us start with your general assessment of the Lebanese ecosystem. Where do you see the challenges? And maybe in a later stage, we'll talk about the opportunities.
I will keep that to my presentation on the knowledge economy.
Okay.
So we have a detailed presentation on the state of the knowledge economy in Lebanon in terms of challenges and opportunities. I will be covering that in the coming presentation.
So you will do the presentation?
Yes, the presentation, yeah.
So maybe I'll turn to Jihad for this. And Jihad is a CEO of Siren Analytics, a consulting and digital transformation company based in the Middle East and North Africa. Siren, that many of us know is doing a great job, is revolutionizing the landscape of technology and innovation, driving impactful change within organization. In 2017, Jihad assumed a pivotal role at Expertise France, where he spearheaded the establishment and leadership of Smart ESA, a distinguished accelerator for entrepreneurs in Lebanon. Currently, he's serving as president of the French Tech community in Lebanon, Jihad remains deeply involved in promoting innovation and collaboration within the tech sector. So this is a very good, I think, introduction, and for you to present us the Lebanese ecosystem, your general assessment of it, and where you see the current challenges today.
Thank you, Sami. If we want to list the challenges, we can stay hours. So it's not going to be, I think we all know the challenges. Look, it's the ecosystem is, there was this big boom that happened when the Circular 331 was launched, and there was a big investment that went into the technology sector in Lebanon. It was good and bad. It had its ugly, dark side, but it had also a positive side, which is it created a sort of cultural change in Lebanon. But today the situation is extremely difficult. Where the problem is the whole ecosystem has no visibility in technology. To drive technology, you need funding to start with the basis. And funding has almost completely disappeared in Lebanon, and this is a major problem. We still do have great talents in Lebanon. At Siren, and we keep recruiting. We're always recruiting. We're always growing. We're very competitive. When we go abroad, we're still very competitive. But I'm starting to see, I would say, we're falling into the same problem we had pre-2019, which is the salary inflation, which is going to make us, again, less competitive outside. So we need to find the right model. What's the right model for the knowledge economy in Lebanon? I have my opinion. We can discuss it if you want. But today there's a big question mark into what model do we build. During the crisis, last 2-3 years, Lebanon became extremely competitive because of the salary gap. I think this is over. The inflationist circle, you know this better than I do, but we are in a huge inflationist, and salaries have to follow, especially in this sector. We are back at Siren, for example, the salaries, we've always paid in dollars, our employees, but we are back to salaries, we are higher than the salaries of 2018. So we are back to the previous loop. And I think the whole ecosystem is like this, or is going to get very, very quickly to this. So how do we solve this? That's a major, we can list lots of other challenges, the infrastructure, the telecom access, but I think we all know this.
Let me turn to Paul and introduce Paul. Paul I know him for years now. Paul is a 29-year software architect and programming veteran. Is the founder and the CEO of Naumann, an AI platform. And actually, when I met Paul 5 years ago, he was trying to explain Chinese for me because he was trying to explain artificial intelligence by then. This platform helps companies turn data into insight and action. Paul founded Roxana in 1999, providing R&D services to clients in Europe and the US, and securing international patents for innovative system creation. He later founded Neuros in 2009, specializing in machine learning for processing tweets. Naumann was founded in 2014, specializing in big data and artificial intelligence. In 2022, he founded Silicon Cedars to serve the world leader in EDA, Synopsys. Paul, what's today your top concern? Your top concern, because you're in an industry that requires a lot of brain, of resources, and we all know that we are going through very hard times in terms of financing the operation, in terms of brain drains. How you're dealing with this?
So you said it well. So my main concern is the education. And mainly when we started Silicon Cedars, the domain where we are working in is very, very complicated when it comes to programming. We deal with low level of, let's say, programming. And we needed resources highly educated in this space. And we were struggling to find these people. However, when it comes to our industry, we don't need advanced universities to find these skills. Today, all this information, all this education are available on the internet. And my main concern that today only the elite people can access to the education, and the mass in Lebanon, they don't have this access to education, mainly for, it's too expensive. However, we can have this education easily and freely on the internet. So maybe I want to launch this idea, why we don't have this topic or this course in all schools, how to learn our kids and our students, how to learn by their own, using internet, and how to they are able to find information through YouTube or all type of internet of all.
It's available today
Yes.
on the internet.
Yes. So just to give you an idea, as for me, I don't have. So anyway, I'm sorry for my English. Okay, I'm.
Speaking in Arabic, if you are more comfortable in Arabic, so
yes, I'll do it. Okay. So الفكرة اليوم الإديوكيشن هي بس معطية للناس اللي بيقدروا يروحوا على الAUB والLAU and so forth. اليوم أهم توبيك بالنسبة لي الإديوكيشن إنه من مكان بيقدر ياخد انفورميشن وبيقدر يتعلم وحده. اليوم ما عم نحكي إنه بدنا الاركيتكت، بدنا المهندس، بدنا الحكيم والجادج، هودي بدهم لايسنس من الدولة.
بلا
ما هذا عم بقوله مش تيوتر. سو اليوم بدي اعلم التلاميذ يتعلموا وحدهم. This is the main topic. إذا بنقدر نعلم التلاميذ يتعلموا وحدهم, and then the education will be available for all people, for the mass.
Great. Dr. Basil Akar is with us. Yes. Can we unmute him? Okay. Welcome, Dr. Basil. Let me introduce Basil Akar. He's Associate Professor of Education at NDU, Loise, and Research Fellow at Centro de Estudos Africanos, Universitate do Porto. From 2014 to 2021, he served as Director of the Center for Applied Research in NDU. Dr. Basil has worked closely with international organizations such as UNICEF, UNESCO, USAID, World Bank, and Dr. Akar published a book in 2019, a book on citizenship education called Citizenship Education in Conflicted Affected Areas, Lebanon and Beyond. Dr. Akar, welcome, and can you give us your general assessment on today the ecosystem and education in Lebanon, and how what role do you see in these sectors for establishing the new economic model to come?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. As Lina said, we'll be presenting this in our presentation today, but I'll quickly build on a few words that were said earlier about the economic model has collapsed and we must build a new one. I think it's also important to keep in mind what models were available before the compounded crises. In the education sector, we have had a model of a knowledge economy that was really not sustainable. And so when the compounded crises happened, it showed that we saw the consequences of its unsustainability, mostly because of its authoritarian political framework. And we also heard keywords such as resilience. And how do we strengthen these sectors? And in these situations, I think it's important to keep in mind forms of transformative responses. What needs to be transformed? Thank you.
Okay. Lina, can we move to your presentation so we set the stage and then we can go to vertical questions?
Thank you, everyone. I will be presenting a policy brief to answer Dr. Sami Nader's question on the current landscape of the knowledge economy in Lebanon today. First of all, I want to start with a general question. Why research knowledge economy, and why now? The two greatest thinkers in the history of economics, Adam Smith and Karl Marx, believed that the best way to discover the deepest truths of economics was to study the most advanced practice of production. For them, it was mechanized manufacturing back then in the very early years of the Industrial Revolution. For us today, as coined by OECD economist Roberto Unger, it is the knowledge economy that is the most advanced practice of production in our days. It is changing the very nature of economic practices on one hand, and how we work together for economic development on another. The knowledge economy in general is a system of consumption and production that is based on intellectual capital, or what we call knowledge-based capital. It refers to the ability to capitalize on intangible assets, on knowledge, data, software, scientific advancements, empirical evidence, and applied research. This knowledge can be commodified in the form of patents and other intellectual property rights. We can see evidence of knowledge economy everywhere across the value chain, in upstream activities where research and development, scientific research, product production, and the production process takes place, and in downstream activities where marketing, selling, and branding takes place. To start with, the knowledge economy is comprised of education, institutional regime, infrastructure, ICT, and innovation. In Lebanon, specifically, academic institutions and companies engaging in R&D, programmers developing new softwares, and designers are all examples as part of the upstream activities of the knowledge economy. Then this knowledge is embedded and consumed by other players in various economic sectors. For example, evidence of the knowledge economy can be seen when a Lebanese manufacturer is using software applications to develop its products, when a Lebanese farmer is using software applications to enhance its crop and its connection to food and agri-food processing companies. Also, when schools and universities and healthcare providers use digital tools in order to enhance their performance. Generally, knowledge economies requires several prerequisites to thrive. The first is a prevalent innovation system encompassing of universities, think tanks, international organizations, private companies, research centers, municipalities, and syndicates that work all together in order at the local, regional, and national level to produce a new knowledge and adapt it first to the local needs and then to the global needs. It also requires a sound network of ICT that's both a foundation of the modern economy and a facilitator for growth and innovation. And of course, it requires a supporting institutional environment. We explore these dimensions separately in the Lebanese context. To start with innovation, so innovation is both an input and output of any knowledge-based economy. It is a collaborative effort which can only be cultivated by the existence of an empowering environment and supporting conditions. On the Global Innovation Index for 2021, here we can see the scores of Lebanon. Lebanon received a score of 33.82 out of 100 in 2015. In 2021, out of 132 economies, Lebanon dropped to the 92nd place. Broken down according to the 7 GII pillars, Lebanon's ranking was as follows. For business sophistication, we ranked 64. For human capital and research, 87. For market sophistication, 90. For creative outputs, 92. For infrastructure, 100. And for institutions, 112, which is comparably a very, very low score. On one positive note, a missed opportunity in the Lebanese sector can be highlighted in its cultural and creative industries. In this report, it shows that CCI's exports accumulated 17% of total trade in Lebanon. This is also validated by the Global Knowledge Index. Lebanon ranked 8th globally in the volume of cultural and creative exports, reflecting the strength of R&D and innovation within CCI's cultural and creative industries. Still, CCIs face significant, here are the cultural and creative industries. They are software designers, advertising companies, art and media-related activities. Still, these industries, of course, face significant challenges amid the economic crisis. We can mention some examples of Beirut-based gaming publishers who were developers and who managed to have a large number of monthly active users before 2020 and are facing today threats related to payment of service, publishers, talent, while obtaining little to no funding. Of course, there's also a shrinking size of the local market demand. There's a high number of informal workers in cultural and creative industries who lack social and healthcare protection, and of course, no presence of any social safety nets to protect them. Moving to government and institutional failures, if I may say, Lebanon's government institutions have failed so terribly over the past years on the local and national levels, particularly the central bank's management of the financial crisis. It became almost impossible for businesses to operate. The index that I mentioned before, the GII index, highlights major weaknesses of political sub-pillars. In political environment, Lebanon ranks 129 out of 132 countries. In government effectiveness, the country ranks 121 out of 132. In education, we rank 123 in 2022. And for e-participation, we rank 120. These are alarming numbers. As for the regulatory environment, the country ranks 115th in the rule of law sub-pillar. So institutional and governance inaction, bureaucracy, rigid centralized authority have been counterproductive to economic recovery in Lebanon, and this have negatively impacted the knowledge economy in several ways. There's a lack of a common direction of policy development for a knowledge-based economy at the governmental level. There's weakness in the enforcement of intellectual property rights through good governance, which is a key requirement for fostering a healthy knowledge economy. There's an evident inability to correct market failures when the entrepreneurial ecosystem is at risk, and there's an overall decline in the country's economic performance. Another major failure in the government that I may highlight is regarding the Ministry of Labor, which has been almost absent in identifying skills needed per sector as skills that Paul was addressing previously, which are needed in these types of industries. They are soft skills and they do not require essentially higher education. They require more perhaps other types of training that can be attained. The ministry does not conduct any timely and systematic labor surveys that assess market dynamics, and accordingly, there's a significant lack of interconnection between the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Education, and the private sector. Despite recent challenges by the ILO and other international organizations to push for better labor force surveys. For moving to the brain drain section, I will leave this section to my colleague, Dr. Basil Hakel, joining us, but according to the UNDP, as a result of the crisis, youth migration rate has been increasing, with a survey conducted in 2021 showing that 77% of Lebanese youth aging between 18 and 24 wished to immigrate, a proportion which is higher than that in war-torn countries like Libya and Yemen. Today, the current economic situation and the low salaries is the main driver for the brain drain. There's a new significant wave of immigrants that has unfolded, marked by an increase of 4.5 times in the number of immigrants between 2020 and 2021. And of course, a very high youth unemployment rate of 47.8% as of January 2022. This is a totally lost pool of talent that have been essential for driving ICT and innovations. In 2014, Lebanese Central Bank, as Jihad mentioned, issued Circular 331, injecting $400 million to the Lebanese enterprise market. The circular guaranteed back then 75% of bank investments in the knowledge economy through direct startup equity investment or indirect startup support entities. It is commonly argued that the intervention has improved the technological and the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Lebanon. However, it remains questionable today whether this intervention was sustainable, strategic, transparent, and capable of compensating for the weak economic background necessary for businesses to thrive and for the country to retain its human capital. Despite challenges, the youth of Lebanon are still trying to find ways to adapt, and one major escape for them is the knowledge economy. I just want to show some ranks of the country in 2022 Global Talent Competitiveness Index. Here we show best performance only among 37 lower middle income countries, among which is Lebanon today. Overall, Lebanon ranks 84 globally out of 125 countries. For attracting talent, we rank below Cambodia and Mongolia. For retaining talent, we are not even among the best performance of our category. For vocational and technical skills, we rank below Sri Lanka and Egypt. To move to the infrastructure and ICT-related failures, of course, the provision normally in all countries of telecommunication networks for connectivity, energy supply, and transportation links is generally considered to be part of a national infrastructure. In Lebanon, of course, undeniably, Lebanon's knowledge infrastructure has been deteriorating in the past years. According to the World Bank Doing Business Indicators in 2021, Lebanon scored, for example, 98.4 over 100 for electricity costs and 0 over 8 for the reliability and transparency of this service. So the poor infrastructure coupled with corruption, oligopolistic market structure, of these industries make internet and other services inadequate and relatively, of course, comparably expensive. Despite all of these challenges, still, according to a recent study by the ILO on the impact of the crisis on the Lebanese labor market, the study reveals that there's high potential for jobs and businesses that Paul have mentioned and investment opportunities in the ICT sector in Lebanon. But of course, it needs to be harnessed effectively. The last point I want to highlight is research and development because it's a main component of the knowledge economy. Unlike many countries, Lebanon hasn't yet acknowledged the importance of tax incentives in supporting innovation and growing the knowledge economy. In the roundtable discussion we had with experts at LCPS, participants stated their need for tax savings to invest in R&D in a way that helps their businesses become more innovative in their business models. While R&D deductions are normally granted by governments globally to encourage pervasive R&D, such schemes have been always absent in the Lebanese context. There were some modest governmental interventions, like some grants to the CNRS, the National Center for Scientific Research, of annual budgets of around $20,000 to $40,000, normally translated to research grants with their memorandums with 8 universities. But of course, this is not enough to build a knowledge economy. I'll move the floor to Dr. Basil Akar, my colleague, to better understand the education role in the knowledge economy before moving forward to the policy recommendations. Thank you.
Looking at the knowledge economy in the education sector, we ask questions such as, what knowledge is needed? Who decides what knowledge is needed? Who provides this knowledge? And how is this knowledge created and provided and shared and used? Yeah, these are very important questions to ask. Well, what does the knowledge base look like in the education sector? These are just only some examples. We can see knowledge as in the form of inventory. This is found usually at the, for example, the statistical bulletin of the CRDP at the Ministry of Education that tells us how many students and teachers are in which schools, etc. We have fact sheets provided by international agencies such as UNICEF. Knowledge is also in the form of research, whether it's published or unpublished, whether it's carried out by academics or organizations. But here we have the intention with a research question and findings and new evidence. We also have knowledge in the form of accountability. This means that this knowledge is produced in the form of reports, outcomes of programs, strategies, budgets. This is probably the rarest of these different forms of knowledge. And then we have knowledge in the form of practice. So this is mostly, let's say, seen as in the form of portfolios, anecdotes, and seldomly in research. Next slide, please. So there are two areas that I would like to just focus on really quickly. One is the knowledge for professionalization. And here I'm giving examples of teachers. So if we look at the economy of knowledge through a very typical structure of supply and demand, if we focus on teachers, the demand for knowledge is mostly in the form of written qualifications and continuous professional learning. But what is this knowledge that maybe teachers are demanding? Well, this knowledge is typically pedagogical knowledge. How do we teach better? How do children learn better? Disciplinary knowledge. For example, how can we have children understand the methods of producing knowledge in math, in science, in history? Yeah. And then others such as classroom management. Now, there is some knowledge, if you can stay back onto the one for teachers. Now, there's some knowledge that teachers may demand, but may not be constructive. For example, this emphasis on learning styles. Many times we also know it through research that the emphasis of learning styles has probably done more harm than good. And there's some knowledge that may be overlooked. So there's also knowledge that some are not asking for. For example, how do we engage parents? How do we manage children with disabilities in the classroom? And how do we identify them? Well, where does the knowledge come from? The knowledge typically comes from associations or agencies who have authority, such as the CRDP and DOPS. This is from the Ministry of Education, and universities and organizations. Now, rarely this knowledge is provided by teacher communities. And here we see a disequilibrium, because to provide the knowledge that is needed for teachers for their work during compounded crises, there needs to be mechanisms or channels where teachers are also part of this knowledge co-construction or knowledge production, particularly through innovation. And within an authoritarian culture, these mechanisms are hindered or maybe even intentionally blocked. Yeah. Next slide, please. Another area of knowledge is the knowledge for child development and learning. I don't know how we are with time, but I think I'll just have, I'll try and run this by quickly. So the question here is, what knowledge is needed to support children's development, including learning in school? Yeah? And where do we gather this knowledge and how? So here on the left, we have two philosophies of education. Under essentialism, essentialism says that those in authority decide what knowledge is important, and they decide how children learn this knowledge. Pragmatism, which is more reflective of a democratic society, says that Well, children and teachers are active in identifying the knowledge that's important or relevant and powerful. For example, I always go to the civics curriculum. There is a unit on families. And in the unit on families in the civics book, there's a lot of focus on families are united, they help each other, there is a mother and a father, and they have children. Now, this is under an essentialist approach to developing education. But under pragmatism, we now have children and teachers asking, well, now how do we manage families that have had to migrate or immigrate because of the crises? Take refuge, lose a member to death, take another form because of adoption or separation. So these are forms of knowledge that are typically marginalized, but essential because of this philosophy of education. The kind of knowledge is also important. On the right-hand side, we see substantive and disciplinary knowledge. Why is this important? When Lina showed how we ranked quite poorly on international assessments, which is true, Lebanon ranks amongst the bottom pool of 7 countries in the world on international assessments on reading, science, and math, because there is a very strong, well, one of the reasons, because there's a very strong emphasis of substantive knowledge. That means we have to know this is information 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's very little emphasis on, well, how do we create this knowledge? How do we develop the conceptual knowledge of certain disciplines? And unfortunately, in our education system and under an authoritarian education system or form of governance, there's always a much stronger emphasis on substantive knowledge. Thank you. If I can just add a quick thought.
Very quickly.
You know, when you, yes.
Okay.
No, it's just to move to the policy recommendations that reviving the knowledge in the economy sector requires transformations. It's very, again, like I said in the very beginning, it's prior to the compounded crises, the education sector was already struggling. So if there is initiatives to build the resilience of an education system so that it responds better to future crises, which are coming, there needs to be transformations. Thank you.
Thank you. The figures you showed are very alarming. Frankly speaking, I thought we were we ranked better in terms of education. It doesn't seem to be the case. Let me move to Jihad, and one of the areas where we are ranking very low is government and institutions. And we all know that at CERN, this is one of your major client, and you have achieved substantial breakthroughs. Is there any hope that what you have achieved could be enlarged, and just to give us a glimpse of hope that things can go better?
Things can always go better. I mean, where we are, we can only go better. So it's the problem is, look, the problem is what we want from government today is not to advance us, because they cannot advance us. We don't even want them to be neutral. We just want them, we want them to stop taking us backwards. This is a major issue today. There is hope. I mean, I was at a meeting the other day with a few ministers. They promised, but again, I've been hearing the same promise for the last 10 years, that digital signature, for example, will be coming in the next 2 months. Now, digital signature, is one of those blockers that you do with digital signatures. It opens a lot of new doors for new applications, new technologies for e-government. So we need that. So yes, there is hope, because there's so many low-hanging fruits. There's so many easy wins.
Can you give us some examples, or where you can see low-hanging fruits? What can be done in the very short term?
Well, passing some very basic laws like digital signature. But then again, there's I'm sorry about the word, very stupid things that they can really pass that they haven't done. In entrepreneurship, Those who navigate in this sector know that since 2014 we have been lobbying and lobbying and lobbying for bankruptcy law. This is a country where there is no bankruptcy law. You will never get foreign investment in entrepreneurs if there isn't a bankruptcy law. It's a simple law. There's no politics. There's no Hezbollah. There's no Israel. There's no Palestine. There's nothing in it. It's super easy. Just do it. They don't want to do it. We don't know why. And if somebody knows, please raise your hand. It's one of these big scientific discoveries in the world.
This is a major obstacle for entrepreneurship.
Yes, I'm just giving a simple
the
example.
The right to fail.
Another silly topic, giving stock option for the employees. It's a very complicated topic to give stock option for our employees. And this is a living material for starting a startup. So you want to start up your idea with all the team.
This is something reduces investing. When you're 20, 30-year-old employees, they want this. They want to be part of the company. It's a generation that wants to be part of it. How can we grow the economy if we don't get these certain things? So just to answer a long answer for a short question, are there opportunities? Yes. The way we have been doing it at Siren is wherever we see a crack in the wall, there's the wall, it's a wall, there's a crack, we have to get into the crack, and you put a little bit and you explode from the crack. So we have to find these little opportunities, these small opportunities, go in and make them explode, because else everything crumbles.
بول، بدي ارجع على مسألة طرحتها، مسألة يعني التدريب والتدريب بموقع العمل، وأنه في إمكانية واحد يتدرب عبر الإنترنت ياخذ المهارات اللي هو بحاجة إلها. بس إذا حصل هالشيء بدي أعرف شو دور المؤسسة أو الشركة من جهة، وهل متى ما فات يعني كيف شو بتعملوا لإبقائه؟ لأنه كلنا عم نعرف يعني مسألة البرين درين هي يعني جرح كبير بالاقتصاد. غير يعني شو الاستراتيجية اللي وضعينها لحتى يجربوا تبقوا على المهارات، لأنه عم تاخد وقت كتير لتمكينهم وتدريبهم.
اوكي، بس تحكي عن البرين درين، أنا بالنسبة لي التوبيك is very complicated. إذا بناخد من 2019 لليوم أنا شفت multiple waves. ويف الناس عم تهرب، بعدين رجعوا على لبنان وقت اللي شافوا عيشوا سنة بأوروبا. It's very complicated to live in France وتعيش هونيك. رجعوا اجوا لهون، رجع الانفجار ببيروت، رجعوا راحوا، هلا اسرائيل رجعوا عم بيروحوا. So هودي الويفز أنا بالنسبة لي very complicated حدا يفهم شو عم يصير بلبنان. Literally this is هيدي أنا ما عم بقدر لحق عليها شو عم يصير بلبنان. إذا بنرجع للإدوكيشن، أنا بلشت my career in 1992 أنجأ كان في شيء اسمه ماوس. أنا كنت من الناس اللي عم بيقولوا لشو الماوس بالحياة to have a mouse. So اليوم عم نحكي ب AI and أنا من الناس اللي عم بيشتغل بعالم ال AI. So ما كان الجامعة خلصت. So اليوم أنا كل يوم عم بتعلم بحياتي، مش عم بقرأ، عم بتعلم تأوصل لهذا الليفل. So هيدا الشيء is available for everyone. وأنا اللي عم بقوله إنه how to give access out to help these kids today to learn by their own. يعني يروحوا يتعلموا شيء اللي بدهم إياه. أهم حدا عندي بالمكتب اليوم هو طالع من الجامعة اللبنانية بطرابلس، هذا ماي ستار بالمكتب عنا. ستار عم يشتغل لشركة مالتي ناشونال، عم بحكي ليستد كومباني 25,000 موظف بأمريكا اسمها سينوبسس. هو من ستار هذا الشخص اللي عم يشتغلوا لهم بسينوبسس هونيك. طالع من الجامعة اللبنانية بطرابلس وما بعرف إذا عنده شهادة. As for us نحن ما بنطلع على الشهادة، عم بنطلع شو عندك. واليوم مش بس عم بحكي بعالم الاي تي وبعالم البروجرامينج، كمية الاشياء اليوم صارت موجودة من ما كان في يتعلمها. سو النولج عندنا اياها هي انه الانترنت هي بس تنسلى. اليوم انا بالنسبه لي كيف فينا نساعد نروح انتو اكشن، مش بس نحكي انه بوليسيز وهيك. كيف فينا نحط هيدا الشيء بالمدارس، يتعلموا، نعلم الاولاد يتعلموا وحدهم ويشيلوا الفيك نيوز. شغله كثير مهمه.
So how do you agree on the approach, and are you feeling any gap between the offering in terms of education and the real demand? Are you getting the skills you need for your business?
Yes, because people who want to learn. And I agree with Paul. Some of our best recruits haven't gone through a proper university process or haven't gone through a proper traditional things. Yes, today education is rapidly changing. That said, just to pick up on the Lebanese University, I think the biggest crime being conducted in this country, besides the environmental crime, is what they are doing to the Lebanese University. This is the... It is on purpose. Yeah,
on purpose. It is funded.
And this is terrible. We're seeing some of amazing recruits coming out of the Lebanese University. This is l'ascenseur social, social elevator in the country that allows people to move in. This is a crime, and this is I don't know. It gets me mad to talk about this, but we need to solve this. But are we finding the talents? Yes. Again, I agree with Paul. Brain drain is a difficult issue. We like to throw that there is a brain drain in Lebanon, that there is. Yes. We see it mostly in middle management, what would be the equivalent of middle management. But you always find people. People come and go. Today, it's so easy to come and go. People try, a lot of young people try. The problem is not as much the brain drain itself, I think, as much as the ambition of leaving the country. So you have a lot of the youth who are working, and they lose focus. Instead of having a proper life, trying to be happy, working, doing what they want, 50% of their energy is spent on how do I get a visa and how do I leave the country. And I fully understand why they do this. But this is a hidden cost that we have in the economy.
Lina, and one slide dragged my attention because it offered some hope. And it pertains to what you call the creative industries. Can you build more on that, where you see the opportunity? What will be your recommendation in order to enlarge the sector, as it shows that is one of our main national competitive advantage?
Yes. Okay, so to comment on this and also to include Paul's and Jihad's comment, knowledge economy by its nature, one of its main characteristics is that it's inclusive, or at least this is how it should be, because it's a way to generate more economic development, but with less income inequality. And knowledge production and consumption has to come from everyone inside the economy, because because this type of activities, knowledge-oriented activities, are available everywhere and in all services and industries. So regarding the cultural and creative industries, in the past decade, there has been a wide interest in these industries, not just in Lebanon, but also in the developed world. One of the main, it's put on the forefront of the research agenda of the EU Commission and the OECD to fund these activities, given that they mainly rely on human capital and basic technological infrastructure. So any graduate or anyone with interest in IT, in software, in media, in art-related activities, in advertising, can do this from anywhere with their laptop. So these types of industries need to be more studied in Lebanon, and this is something that we have put on our research agenda in Lebanon, at LCPS, because we would like to look at the clustering patterns of these industries. Where are they? Are they in rural areas? Where are these SMEs and small entrepreneurs initiating these types of activities and exporting? All based on personal initiatives, not relying on any governmental intervention. We would want to see the location decisions of these firms, why they are located, where they are being located, and what do they need at this local level, wherever they cluster, in order to be able to better innovate and be able to compete globally. So many policy recommendations have been put in this aspect. One of them is in this direction. One of them is to find these creative firms, locate them, identify their clusters, identify main cluster actor that can help them. It can be a university nearby, a think tank, a research center, where R&D can be collaborative in order to assist these firms in their innovation. So, yes.
Thank you. Before moving to Basil, بدي ارجع بول شيء كنت انت بالارتفيشال انتليجنس، ويبدو يعني من خلال القراءات يعني السريعه اللي عم نعملها انه الذكاء الاصطناعي انه رح يقسم العالم اثنين. في ناس اللي رح يقدروا to join وفي ناس that will lag behind. هل بتوافق على هالشيء؟ هل هي opportunity للكل او نحن باي خانه رح نكون؟ بخانه الناس اللي رح يقدروا يلحقوا الموجه ويواكبوا الموجه، او بخانه الناس او الاقتصادات اللي رح تبقى لورا؟
اوكي، بتخيل انه ما في تشويس هون، ما عندنا تشويس تساله لحدا اذا ان او اوت، رح يمشين. يعني عم تسالني عن الاي اي اليوم مثل عم تسال من 20 سنه عن الانترنت، اذا بتكون بارت من الانترنت ولا لا. هيدا اتس نورمال بروسس ماشيين كلنا سوا فيه. اليوم الاي اي مشكلته الوحيده انه ما في رولز، ما في من ما كان فيه يعمل شو ما كان فيه، بس انه اتس كامينج. بس هذا طبيعي، حيلا نيو تكنولوجي بدها وقت تو ساتل وبعدين بتجي على الطريق. بس الناس الخايفين من الاي اي لانه مشكلتي الاساسيه انه مش فاهمين كيف بيشتغل الاي اي وما عندهم هذا النولج. يعني هيدا المشكله الثانيه، انه بس حدا يتعرف على الاي اي وكيف بيشتغل، في حدا هيومن برين وكتير ذكي، اكستريملي ذكي، عمل هذا الشيء تو هيلب البشريه كلها سوا، مش انه تيضر البشريه. بالعكس كليا مثل كانوا اللي يحكوا على التلفزيون او على التليفون او على الانترنت او اني نيو تكنولوجي، احنا رح نسال ذات السؤال.
Okay, let me move to Basil with this same question. How you see in terms of policy recommendation, how can we deal with the AI as this new disrupting trend?
Yeah, very good question. So as the speaker just before me just mentioned that, yes, with technology, we have uses and misuses of it. And I think the first step is to be very clear about the misuses of AI and how it can be misused. And to, for example, it has been used instead of creativity. Yeah. So when we want to, let's say, interpret data, for example, draw research questions, draw conclusions. Some have turned to AI for this, and here it is misleading. It will produce knowledge that is irrelevant. I know that there are some organizations that are asking for AI-free work. So there is a commitment that we must sign in our contracts that we will not turn to AI while we produce this work. And it's very important to also maybe be clear on when AI can be useful, how it can be useful. We need to learn how to use AI. So I think these are some first steps.
Okay, thank you. Let me move to the access to the market aspect. Jihad, I mean, from your experience or from your perspective, are you relying more on the domestic demand? What's the status of the domestic demand in Lebanon? And are you doing some export for your services?
No, definitely, and this is the beauty of knowledge economy, is that you can easily export, which is different from manufacturing or agriculture where you have products to move. Here you're moving services, you're moving ideas. So definitely this is why knowledge economy is a very good economy for Lebanon, because it's easier to export. The problem is, and I remember last year I was in Riyadh and I was going to sign a contract, and the first question was, if you're a Lebanese company, we don't sign with Lebanese companies. You know, there are two types. If you're Emirati, for Saudi, they don't like Emiratis anymore. If you're Emirati or Lebanese, we don't want to work with you. If you're Lebanese as a person, that's fine. We just don't want a Lebanese company. Do you have a foreign entity we can work with? And we see this a lot with a lot of cases. The problem is, so from our case, yes, we are working a lot in Lebanon because we try to work with institutions, with public sectors, with donors. There's still a lot of things happening in Lebanon, a lot of opportunities, a lot of projects happening. Going outside, yes. Again, there's an issue with brand Lebanon. The brand Lebanon is obviously very badly perceived.
Heard that
They
even
like
in the
the
IT
Lebanese.
sector?
So there's a big difference between the Lebanese as a Lebanese brand and brand Lebanon. But I understand potential clients. If they're outsourcing to you in Lebanon, and every time they want to sign a contract, 3-4 year contract with you in Lebanon to outsource their IT activities or to outsource advertising or to outsource anything, they always ask you, what happens if internet goes off in Lebanon? What happens if there's a war? Well, we're always living in instability with very short-term vision. So you always have to explain, you always have to the effort required to go out. But yes, there is market access. There is also a big, when we can tap into a lot of opportunities into Lebanese communities. We still have, people know that the Lebanese produce quality. This is true. So we need to leverage on this. And it's not just in the ICT. It's also in creative industries, in advertising, in things. I just want to go back to a few, because it links to market access to one thing. We need to decide what economic model do we want for this country. When I go to Dubai, to Media City, half of the people there who work in the Media City, as you have all the advertising agencies and things, half of the people are Lebanese. Is this good or bad? Is this brain drain? I happen to think this is very good. These are people who are going. They're sending money back home. They're making the country live. They come and go because Dubai is easy. They come 2-3 times a year, those who make good money, obviously. If these people had stayed in Lebanon, what would we do with them? A friend was telling me the other day, there are more than 9,000 registered architects in Lebanon. 9,000 registered architects in Lebanon. What the hell do you do with them? If we don't export these people and they don't go. So our university system, just to link all this, link to market access and to universities, has to start, watching out where are the jobs, where are the links, and where do we create the jobs. So immigration is good. It's not bad to people to immigrate. It's not bad to come and go and learn. The world has changed. We have to learn to come, go, access markets abroad, go. When I was running right next door Smart ESA, the startup accelerator at ESA, probably 60 or 70% of our startups, those that survived, obviously, the crisis, their companies are registered in Dubai. They're not registered in Beirut because nobody wants to register their company in Lebanon. Are they creating jobs in Lebanon? Yes, also. And these are outside of your rankings because they're totally informal. They give them cash. It's black economy. So I think it would be an interesting topic of what economic model are we building? Not easy.
And it would be maybe an opportunity to rethink the Lebanese brand. The Lebanese brand being to include all the diaspora network in this Lebanese brand thing. Are you facing the same difficulties in exporting your services?
Exporting, no, but for me, Lebanon is reputation.
Your clients are outside.
كلهم أكيد. بلبنان أصلاً خلصنا من زمان، من 2019 خلصنا بلبنان. بس وقت اللي بنكون نحن بالآي تي، لأنه رجعنا نحكي السالوري تبعيتنا كتير غالية، ما فينا نبيع إلا كواليتي، هاي اند كواليتي، وإلا ما بتركب. يعني ما فينا نبيع هذا الماس. يعني حدا تعمل ويب سايت بلبنان لشركة برا ولا بتركب إلا عم يحكي هاي كواليتي. هلا تنحل هاي المشكلة اليوم بلبنان في كمية ناس موجودة، الناس بالبنوكة. باي ذا واي جربنا نحكي ناخذ الجيش اللبناني إنه كل الناس اللي عاملين انجينيرز أو اي تي أو شيء مثل الاي تي تنجيب نعمل لهم كونفرجن ونجيبهم معنا. طلع إنه ولا حدا بالجيش اللبناني بعد موجود بيفهم اي تي. طلعوا كلهم سوا. سو اليوم نكست ستيب اذا ما بقى في بالجيش خلينا ناخذ الببليك سيكتور. في كتير ناس اليوم موجوده بالبانكينج سيكتور، كل هودي اليوم ما بقى عندهم وظائف. اذا فينا نجيبهم ونحطهم هون السالري بيبلش ينزل وبنبلش نرجع نحكي بموديل جديد للبنان. اذا فينا نوطي السالاريات نقدر نطلع الماس اكثر.
ترانزيشن بتكون سهله ومعقوله من موظف بنك.
يس اذا وحدي لا كميه ناس بتقدر تعملها اليوم. ايكول 42 ou des écoles comme ça, c'est ça ce qui va aboutir à la fin.
Excuse my ignorance, maybe what is École 42?
كم الإيكول 42 هي إيكول طلعت بفرنسا، بتجيب ناس مش من الجامعات، بتجيب ناس بتعلمهم ضمن بروسس معروف شو هو، مثل كامب بيحطون مع بعضهم وبيطلعوا بالأخير.
that CMA CGM brought to Lebanon, but created in France by Xavier Niel. It's a 2-year free program that people can go in 18 years old and learn coding, programming, with a new methodology اللي كان بيحكي فيه بول قبل, which is there are no professors. It's team learning, self-learning teams. It's been functioning, they have 42 campuses all over the world. So they will start in Lebanon January.
مشكلتي مع الإيكول 42 إنه it has to be on site. أخي ليش عملته شغل بياخد العقل فلتها بعتها على الجبال بعتها فوق بالرور اريا اعملها فيرتشوال خلي العالم تتعلم. هيدي المشكلة الوحيدة اللي هلا بالإيكول 42.
Mentioned at one point clusters and the role of clusters in promoting the knowledge economy. Is this just a buzzword, or this is something real that you have seen in your studies on Lebanon? Can you give us some examples of working clusters here?
Yes, clusters are not ideals. في clusters بتنجح في clusters ما بتنجح أبداً. بس some
لنا شوي maybe للaudience شو clusters, type of clusters between cities.
Essentially are agglomeration of firms that share similar knowledge base. ما ضروري كلهم يكونوا media related, فيهم يكونوا media related, art related, manufacturing. بس المهم إنه كلهم بيستفيدوا من خبرات بعض. And there happens to be a knowledge spillover from one firm to another, or from one university to its surrounding firms. So there are different types of clusters, forms, shapes. So are clusters real? I have worked on clusters of cultural and creative industries with the OECD in Venice, Italy, and in Catalonia. And their main objective was to design empirical evidence policies for interventions, but based on knowing exactly where the clusters are and which among them is growing or declining over 2 decades period of time. So there's data on all these firms and their location decisions for 2 decades, and then you can identify the significant clusters. What are these that survived and why did they survive? What are they doing right? ومن هون بتبلش تعمل replication for other you can take successful case studies and apply it to other contexts. In Lebanon, we have a few, for example, there's the Beirut Digital District. There was a media and audiovisual cluster inside Beirut. There are other design clusters inside Beirut, fashion design, jewelry design. There are clusters of design in rural areas, but over a period of time, they diminished. يعني قبل كان في designers take for example رشايا الفخار كان في 40 designers and silversmiths and هول من the creative industries نحن بنعدهم designers وكمان they export. So اليوم بقي في 2 يعني في أكيد هن موجودين بالrural areas وفي كتير منهم مش معروفين وفي كتير منهم بمناطق that are less accessible يعني مثل ما عم بيقول بول بالشمال بالجنوب بالهيك ما حدا بيطلع فيهم وما حدا بيعرف هن وين أو شو عم يعملوا وإذا في كلاستر هونيك أو لا. So this is something that needs to be visited in order to tailor policy making from a bottom up approach. This is how it should be.
شو بدك تقول شيء؟
ايه اكيد نحن بلبنان على طول جميع انواع يعني الجراجيست بجميع انواع السيارات ولا شيء مختص فينا. هودي الكلاستر بخليونا نكون بشيء سبيشالايزد. خلينا ناخذ الجامعات، كل الجامعات بيعطوا كل شيء. في يمكن القلبة بلبنان بتقول بس تقول قلبة بتقول ديزاين، برات القلبة كل الجامعات بيعطوا كل شيء، بالمستشفيات كل شيء. ليش ما في كلاستر اوف شو ما كان يكون؟
Especially that we are dealing with like serious challenges like the lack of energy. Clustering may be a way to deal with this kind of challenges. Dr. Akar, do you have something to add on this topic of clusters?
I didn't really see how
we're discussing the importance of clusters and its role in the knowledge economy as a booster of innovation.
Yes, I understood that, but I didn't understand how it could fit in the education sector. Like clusters of what?
universities should play a role in clusters.
University are part of clusters.
But I don't think today in Lebanon, to Paul's point, I don't think universities are playing their role, to be honest.
Yeah, if we look at clusters as types of networks, then it is it's absolutely instrumental. The education systems that have really been able to advance their pedagogical knowledge, for example, and their disciplinary knowledge are systems that have banked on a shared type of a network where teachers are part of a network where they consistently share the knowledge that they're producing and critically engage with it. But again, remember that a knowledge economy is a it's a type of it's a process. But what determines sometimes also the success or the sustainability of a knowledge economy is also the political framework that it works under. If it is a knowledge economy under an authoritarian framework, then no, you will not have networks. They will not be encouraged. If it is under a democratic governance system, or if the policies are inclusive and democratic, etc., then yes, they can be facilitated, they can be encouraged, and this is how they thrive. So I think that, again, one of centers for transforming the knowledge economy in the education sector, at least, is to transform the policies that appear and the practices that appear authoritarian into a form that is much more transparent and democratic and inclusive.
Do you want to add something very quickly on that?
That evidence has shown that it's easier to support existing clusters rather than building clusters from scratch. So نحن بلبنان لازم نشوف شو في clusters لو هي declining بس it's easier to build on this من ما نجي نعمل infrastructure كاملة لنبلش clusters. And of course collaboration with universities, as Jihad mentioned, is very needed لأنه in most successful clusters globally إذا عم نحكي Silicon Valley أو clusters صغير بلبنان كله بلش من جامعة كبيرة و spin-off firms حولها. جامعة specializing in some activity and then startups start to grow outside this university. But universities in Lebanon, especially in rural areas, especially the Lebanese university, need special support from students to professors, everything, in order to help them survive and contribute to innovation.
Okay, let me move to the
أهم example عنا إياه هن الريستورانت ما بتلاقيهم إلا كلاسترز والشباب they are doing good. شوفوا بلبنان.
هلا حننتقل لموضوع اللي هو الاكسس تو فاينانس وبدي بلش معك لأن هاي المشكله الاساسيه مع الوضع الحالي بالقطاع المصرفي وكل الشركات هيدي النمبر 1 تشالنج بالنسبه لهم انه مش عم بيقدروا يحصلوا على التمويل اللازم. How you're dealing with كيف عم تتعاملوا مع هالتحدي الاساسي يمكن الاول بالنسبه للاقتصاد؟
يمكن تو بارت. اول وحده كنا باحلى ايامنا ايام 3 يعني انا بالنسبه لي لبنان طلع له تشانس ونحن كانتربرينور طلع لنا تشانس بياخذ العقل. انا من الناس اللي استفادوا كثير بال 3 جي لوفي 4 مليون دو دولار للشركه تبعيتنا. اليوم ما بقيت هيدا الاوبشن موجوده. انا بالنسبه لي ما عندي اي جواب، مش موجود شيء اسمه له علاقه بالفاينانس. يمكن عم بحكي كاكسبيرينس اون براكتيكال بارت، يمكن اذا حدا انتربرينور اليوم افضل له يعمل 2 كومبانيز او 2 برانشز، 1 برانش فور سيرفيسز بتفوت له ماني وبرانش ثانيه للار ان دي تيعمل الايديا اللي هو بده اياها. This is maybe what we are doing right now in between Silicon Cedars and Newman، لانه Newman needs بعد لحد اليوم بدها.
And this sector is capital hungry. What's your view on this?
I mean, we've always relied on. We've stayed out of. We've always relied on our own investments and our own, getting a project and reinvesting the money. So we've been reinvesting everything we make as a source.
Equity?
No, not private equity, but we reinvest everything we put into the company. We don't take out dividends. We go back because this is the only way we can finance our growth. اكيد هلا شركه عم بتبين and I've been an entrepreneur here. I mean, I was an entrepreneur before the 331 and I lived it also without financing when banks wanted 15% interest rates. And I'm talking 2005. I remember I went to a bank and they told me it's 15% because they want to kick me out. And the kids and the house and everything. We've always learned to function this way. The reality is, yes, it's terrible. It's horrible, but before the 331, and even 331, it had its problems. The banks never played the role in Lebanon of financing entrepreneurs. They finance existing companies with existing, so if you were rich, you could get the money. I remember how much I struggled with my own company in 2005 to get any type of funding. So it's been a recurring problem in Lebanon. I wouldn't say it's been, banks always preferred in Lebanon to give out car loans, these highly secured loans, than to go and risk. Nobody ever wanted to take risk in Lebanon into this. There was a good scheme. There was the ISME Kafalat. Yani Kafalat had a good scheme that did good. They are giving grants. Last year, they gave also some grants that really helped some entrepreneurs. This is, I don't know the situation today, probably dead. So this was, for example, this was a grant that Lebanon state, the grant stopped because money went to support refugees. We have a problem. We have a problem of priorities in the country. But still, there are investments happening. I myself invested in 3 startups in the last 6 months. So people are trying to put money. There are angel investors trying to put money. But for an SME that needs a big amount to go and grow,
for an entrepreneur, and how can he deal with this with this challenge?
They create a company outside of Lebanon, and none of them are creating companies in Lebanon. But also creating a company, to Lina's point before, creating a company in Lebanon is becoming extremely difficult. It's coming. We're facing a new problem. We're facing a new problem. I don't know if my colleagues have felt it, but Lebanese entrepreneurs who are creating companies abroad, so they go create in Dubai, in France, and I run the French tech, so I've been helping entrepreneurs set up also their commercial entities. Now they tell them, oh, you're Lebanese, we're not going to open a bank account for you, even abroad. So our brand is now following us negatively into this. So this is a new problem that we will start facing.
In Lebanon, a new company can hardly open a bank account.
Yeah, in the absence of finance, أنا برأيي الرول الكبير هو للجامعات اليوم، إنه كل هودي الأفكار إذا في دي بقلب الجامعات ونحل مشكلة إنه how to transfer the IP from a university to a company. برأيي هيدا الحل الوحيد اليوم اللي عندنا إياه بلبنان، إنه بالجامعات نجيب هودي الانتربرنور تعالوا تنساعدكم في ريسورسز في الكادر وبعدين نطلع as a spin-off company.
There's another topic here is we've gone in the last 20 years, I think, or 15 years in Lebanon from 20 universities to more than 65 registered universities. And we know that a lot of them are just here to give diplomas out. This is a problem. I mean, it's not, so the serious universities have to play a role. They have a responsibility towards the country, not just of putting diplomas and graduating people. They have a role, they have a responsibility towards the country. Are they doing this role? Yes, to a certain extent. I mean, you know best.
Recommendation in this issue?
Well, let the universities start to cluster themselves sometimes, the serious ones. Let them specialize a little bit and let them orient people who come. I understand universities need to make money to survive. And the problem is it's a vicious circle we're in. But going and opening up and telling, oh, we need more people. So yeah, I was giving the example of architecture. Oh, let's register to architecture. What are we going to do with more architects? What are we going to do in the country with them?
That's true. I still have some areas of importance to discuss, but let me open the floor for questions. Yes, please. Can you present yourself?
Let me finish. من نائب سابق فيني اعرف عن حالي. انا حابب بس اعمل مداخله صغيره وجاوب لمسيو جهاد، لانه طرحت اذا في حدا يجاوبنا على مشان السيناريو الالكترونيك. بتجربتي بالمجلس النيابي عندك اللجان بتشتغل كتير منيحه ولجنه المعلوماتيه بتشتغل كتير منيح، بس ليش نحن هالشيء هن بيرفضوه؟ لحلك ليش بيرفضوه؟ نحن في عنا سلطه سياسيه ولازم نجرب نحن نفكر ليش هالحلول ناتج عن هالشيء. في عنا السلطة السياسية، في عنا السلطة المالية، وفي عنا السلطة الأمنية. هدول نهاري اللي بده يصير في عندك سيناتور إلكترونيك هن فقدوا السلطة عن هالشيء. يعني أول شيء لما بده يصير في عنا مكننة وفي عنا أي شيء إلكترونيك هن فقدوا السلطة عن الفساد المالي اللي ممكن هن ينتج معهم. تاني شيء السلطة الأمنية ما عاد عندك كل السلطة على الداتا. وبنفس الوقت حتى لما قلنا بالجيش اللبناني ما بقى في حدا من الاي تي. ليش؟ لانه تفرغت هالدوله بسبب الانهيار لها. ولا تاني شيء في عندنا نحن اثنين سيستم، في عندنا نحن اطار الدوله وفي عندنا اطار خارج الدوله. خارج الدوله كمان تتضارب معهم. نهاري اللي بتعطيهم الداتا ويقول لك انا في عندي شيء سيادي انت عم تاخذ لي من المعلومات اللي عندي، اللي المفروض يكون في عندنا سيستم واحد اللي هو الدوله اللبنانيه اللي بتحافظ عليه. لما بيكون في حدا طرف تاني عم يقول لك انا هالداتا بتاخذها بالنسبه لي بتشكل علي خطر، يعني في عندنا الفساد المالي والفساد الاقتصادي. نهار يلي بالمجلس النيابي في عندنا السيستم كله موجود، الفوت الكترونيك بدنا نفقسها. بيقولوا في الاكرام مكسور، جينا قلنا لهم انه اذا بتريدوا نحن بنصلح لكم اياه. نهار يلي بيصير في عندنا فقسه الفوت الكترونيك سقطت الهيمنه على السلطه التشريعيه وبذلك سقط النظام. مشان هيك نحن لازم يكون في عندنا سيستم واحد اللي هو السيستم الدولي. ما فيني امشي بنفس الوقت انا بلينكس او ويندوز او ماكنتوش. اذا عم نحكي بلغه الانفورماتيك بدنا نحكي نحن بسلطه الدوله يلي هي مسيطر عليها. فالفوت الكترونيك مثل السيناتور الكترونيك نهار يلي في عندنا سلطه هي فاشله تماما بالفساد تبعيتها بتنفضح. اي وزاره هلا بتشوف من الدونيشن اللي عم يصيروا. مش سؤال، جواب انا، لانه طلب مين بيقدر يوضح لي. اذا نحن رحنا هلا اي سلطه مانحه الدوله بحاجه لها بيقول لك انا بدي ترشيد ومراقبه من المانح، هن على مضض عم يقبلوها، ولكن كل المنح اللي موجوده عندنا هي اذا ما كان عليها مراقبه هي فاشله. فهذا السيستم اللي هو غلط. ميرسي.
معك حق. الداتا نحن كسايرن عم نعيشها يوميا، بروتكشن الداتا بالبروجرامز اللي عندنا مع الدوله اللبنانيه. في حروب على وبنشوف انه في مافيا بالدوله بدها تاخذ الداتا، ما نكذب على بعضنا، وعم بتحارب كل يلي بيجربوا ما نحن عم نجرب نكون مانع وما نخليهم يستولوا على الداتا. بس عم نقدر وعم نقدر ندافع عن حالنا. بدي بس معلي كلمه سريعه على موضوع الجيش. نحن معلي مؤسسه بشتغل كثير معه من لا في كثير تالنتس بالجيش. اكيد في كثير فلوا، بس عم نشوف نحن كثير تالنتس بالجيش. وتو يور بوينت، وهون ربما كلاسترز نحن عم نشتغل مع اليو اس جي ومع الجيش. مثلا هلا عاملين بروجرام مع يعني عم نشتغل برنامج مع الجيش بيطلع لهم كمان الضباط اللي عم بيشتغلوا على والعسكر، مش بس ضباط، اللي عم بيشتغلوا على الانفورماتيك مثلا بيطلع لهم دي من الجامعه من اليسوعيه من اليو اس جي. بقى كمان لا في دور كمان للجامعات ليساعدونا هون. اليو اس جي مشكورا ساعدتنا كثير وعم بتساعد الجيش بهالطريقه. وعم نشوف انا عن جد عم بشوف تالنتس داخل الجيش والامن الداخلي بالاي تي وبالمعلومات بالاي سي تي عن جد. ولو ما كان فيها التالنتس كان البلد انخرب اكثر بكثير ما هو موجود.
بالمناسبه كمان في دي او مع الامن العام بتقريبا نفس الاطار. اوكي.
Hello, Karim Al-Farikh من Anera. I have one question and one remark. I will start with the remark on AI. مثل ما قال our esteemed speaker Paul on AI is coming, and I read a saying that really resonated with me. مثلا AI will never replace, let's say, a software engineer, but a software engineer using AI will replace a software engineer not using AI. So Anna, as a manager and as a faculty, I really tend to integrate AI in all of my work. مثلا for faculty, I give the students assignments to use with AI, and then we come together and sit and try to critique the AI text that it generated. So it is coming. We just need to ride on this wave. And the question to Lina, there was a slide that was really, really concerning the ranking of Lebanon amongst the world, amongst the ranking of the world. And I really noticed that the numbers that you were using were from 2020 and 2021. So this was peak economic crisis. So maybe 77% of the youth then wanted to leave. Maybe it's not the same number now. So I wanted to ask you, do you have updated numbers on this? Or in your opinion, do you think now the situation has changed? Like also Paul Angie had said that things are getting back to normal now. People went to Europe, went to the Gulf, and then they came back. So do you have any idea on the updated numbers now?
So the survey I mentioned, about 70% was done by the UNDP in 2021, yes. I do not have updated number at the moment for this, but I can give you a small example. I teach at the Lebanese American University, and in my economics class, I have senior students. One of them is going to stay in Lebanon, and we are receiving, as a department, we are receiving a crazy number of students requiring recommendation letters on daily basis. So this is telling about the number of graduates that want to leave the country. Hala, it happens in waves as well. Lebanon. There's always something, unfortunately.
For a few of the children, they're, I don't know my kid's age, 13, my youngest. Yeah, I agree with you. 95% expressed that they wanted to leave Lebanon, and they don't believe in Lebanon, and they don't like Lebanon. And this is becoming, I mean, this is the young generation. It's terrible.
And yes, just something. The Global Talent Index is for 2022. When I said that we score below Egypt and Sri Lanka, and these are indicators for 2022 on the country's ability to retain and attract its talents.
متر على مين تفضل. Okay. متر تفضل.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if this is working. Okay, thank you very much. This has been an absolutely amazing panel. Let me try to take out two things, essentially, after I explain a bit more about an issue, because this government problem, this governance problem in Lebanon is too big for the right time community to do this. I will retain one point before I explain on certain matters. One point is very important. Let's see how we can drive the business without the intervention of government. So without blocking and without need. So we have to start being creative and finding proper solutions, which, if elevated, and then I think it will come to a certain big question, is where is Lebanon, or where do we want Lebanon to sit economically, socially, and politically in the world, without trespassing on government work. So what can we do? And this is part of, I think, why we're here and why we're trying to foster this thinking. Very quickly, and just as an example, and this is probably a professional deformation, from a legal perspective, we have since 2018 a law that clarifies everything on electronic signature. There is a need for something called a decree on enhanced electronic signature, which is really not needed, and nobody uses in the world anymore. All technology has gone late 90s when VeriSign started something like a digital. You don't need this. All you need is a confirmation that once you send something, it can be related to you, a further confirmation from an SMS or a WhatsApp on your registered mobile number, which we don't have. Of course, we will go back to who is who holds which numbers, etc. Everybody is a bit lost in this. But there are so many laws. We have revamped completely the Code of Commerce in 2019. We have created new classes of shares in joint stock companies only for preferred shareholders. So now we have also elaborated on better understanding the finance needs of companies. So now you have these. We have also enacted a law on private equity, creating a new kind of a GPLP, which you see quite often in France, in England, in other jurisdictions. The problem is that nobody is using them. Nobody is using them. Nobody knows about them, maybe, but nobody is using them. And it is certainly easier to go outside and start something from there. So, as a first feel from this beautiful discussion is that let's try to focus on what we can do. It is a bigger problem and another problem to deal how state should react, what type of subsidy they should do, how they're going to reform their corrupt and completely failing educational system. It's not going to work today, but you can do a lot. And this is, I think, why we should focus more on the immediate practical needs.
I totally agree. Starting with clustering our efforts as civil society and our capabilities. Rima?
Well, it was just a passing comment concerning the waves that we see, people leaving and then people starting to reconsider because it's very difficult outside. So I don't know if we can actually have data, but right before the Israel-Gaza situation, there was a renewed interest and there was a different way of thinking with a little bit more long-term approach. And then, of course, it all goes up in smoke. And I have to second what you said. All the kids now are saying that they want to leave. So it was just an additional comment. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Questions? Okay, I still have like 7 minutes. There is a topic that I did not tackle yet when it comes to the legal framework. And I want to just know your recommendation. You spoke about the electronic signature. What about property rights? What are your recommendations in terms of policies in order to improve the legal framework and making it more conducive to innovation?
In all cases, to Maitre Alam's point, it's I mean, none of us has ever counted on Lebanese application of. We have good laws. I agree with you. We have a lot of good laws. Probably there's a communication issue, yes, but there's also a trust issue, and I think the trust issue is an important part into this. For intellectual property, look, honestly, in all cases, I truly believe intellectual property is an international approach. It's not a Lebanese or French or. I mean, you have to protect yourself internationally. So for me, I've never felt it as a major issue. The major issue is protecting yourself. But that's a much bigger justice. Getting your rights protected in Lebanon, we know it's not always going to happen. We do have some very good, commercial courts, and you get some very good legislation sometimes. So for me, it's less of a worry about this. On the very short run, though, I would just point one point, not to be gloomy, but again, we're still recruiting in Lebanon. We're growing in Lebanon. We're very, we know we're used to crisis, but we are end of November. We're the last week of November. I still don't know in January what would be my tax on Social Security, what would be the rate that would be applied. Imagine I'm running a business. My cost of salaries might triple starting January, and it's in 1 month, and I have no clue what's happening. How do you want me to keep recruiting? I keep recruiting, but if tomorrow they decide and they pass a law like they're talking about tripling basically my costs, God knows.
And are you worried about I want very briefly to question you on two aspects. أول شيء the R&D. Are you doing you're investing in this? In which areas هاي؟ واحد اثنين and
pure AI.
And what's your B plan in the case there is no internet in the country? How you will deal with it?
كان عندنا ستارلينك وجبناه الستارلينك على لبنان حطيناه بالكلسات سوري وجبناه على لبنان ومشيناه وتاني جمعة وقفوا لنا اياه الستارلينك. هذا البلان بي وقفوه هلا.
سجلوا إذا في crisis go get Starlink. We all went, the whole economy went to get Starlink. They closed it a week later. It's not normal.
هلا باي ذا واي كلمة بلان بي بلبنان حسب وين تحط الكورسور، بلان بي بلبنان كتير واطية، كتير واطية يعني. بس انه جبنا ستارلينك. هلا برجع بنقول انه بلبنان صرنا معودين على كل الخبريات، وانا على طول عم بروح على البراكتيكال بارت، انه مثل ما كان عم بيقول متر علم انه اليوم ما عندنا ديجيتال سيجنتشر، بس اليوم اذا ببعث لك مساج على الواتساب انا اتستراكت وفيني اتحاسب عليها. مش بس عم بحكي بالبزنس، كل ايميل نبعته نحن بنعرف بس تعمل ساند هيدا اوريدي ريكوردد وصار في تراك عليه، حتى لو ما في ديجيتال سيجنتشر بلبنان. هلا نرجع نقول لبنان انه اليوم ما عندنا ستارلينك. ليش؟ ما بنفهم ليش. انه كل شيء منيح بيوقفوا لك هيك.
And once you have a telecom service, you need to have some sort of arrangement with the country. It is actually now listed on the next Council of Ministers decisions, but there is an agreement that Starlink does with the world. You don't get just a Starlink, you set it up and you start. There is, beside all the problem of controlling what's in and out, تخيل انه كل واحد معه Starlink فاتح على حسابه وبيعمل إذا بتزيد عليه يلي نحن عانينا منه. صرنا في ناس هون شغالين بالتليكوم سيكتور من التسعينات. المافيات يلي سرقت من الكونكتيفيتي تبع الدولة على الانترنت، على الانترناشونال نتوركس، على التليفونات الدولية، ولليوم hundreds of millions of dollars went to private pockets. It's as big as مشكلة الكهرباء وغيره إلى آخره. سو في حاجة إنه يضل في شيء واقف يعني بشي محل بس يضل شغال، لأنه بالآخر بلا دولة ما فيك نعيش على only private internet. بس let's continue the thinking, let's be practical ونلاقي حلول تقدر تنفذها بدون ما نترجى حدا.
ستارلينك اليوم في كمان الديبيت موجودة بفرنسا. فرنسا اكتشفت انه في عندهم شيء ما بعرف ده شيء 100,000 يمكن او 10,000 I don't know النمبر كونكشن، وما عندها اي كنترول الدولي، وهلا عم بيحطوا اون لوا لهيدا الشيء بفرنسا. بس اللي عم نقوله بلبنان نحن ركضنا تنجيب ستارلينك لانه بكره معقوله كان سنترال جديده يوقف. This is the topic. بذات الوقت لانه شافونا عم نشتغل وعم نعمل بلان بي وقفوا لنا اياه. يا اخي حط اللي بدك اياه الريجوليشن اللي بدك اياه، بس انه مين وايل ليش وقفناه؟ هذا اللي عم نحكي عن براكتيكال. anyway انا
it can be regulated.
exactly.
Lina, any final word? The final word is yours because you still have 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with everything being said. We have placed some recommendations on reforms needed in the telecommunication sector, in its market structure, and in the education sector. And I think everything being said by Jihad and Paul have enriched, can be added to these policy recommendations, is more applied given their experience. So this is it from my end. Thank you so much.
I think we have reached the end of our discussions. Thank you for the audience. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you for the organizers. And see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for everyone, and thank you, Sami, for this great panel and for all the panelists. We're going to take a half-hour break, and we will resume with our second panel. Thank you very much.